5 times. That's how many times Diddy's tried to convince a judge to let him out of jail before sentencing. And 5 times, the answer's been a big courtroom cold denied. Now, the hip-hop mogul stays locked up until October. And it's not just about the charges. The judge's reasoning is part legal checklist, part PR nightmare, and yes, it's brutal. And the defense's $50 million golden key bail offer? Yeah, the judge basically tossed it back like expired milk. It's August 2025. Diddy's trial ended last month with a split verdict. He dodged the federal RICO and sex trafficking charges, but those Mann Act convictions? They stuck like gorilla glue. 2 counts for transporting individuals across state lines for prostitution. The maximum? 10 years each. The reality? He's fighting for far less. And now, after 5 bail denials, he's sitting at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, counting down to his October 3rd sentencing. So why did the judge slam the door shut again? Let's break it down. Legal tea first, drama second. Bail after a conviction is not the same animal as bail before trial. Before trial, the law leans toward letting you out unless you're a proven danger or likely to run. After you've been found guilty, the presumption flips. Now the court assumes you stay locked up unless you can prove otherwise. Post-conviction bail before sentencing is governed by 18 U.S.C. Section 3143A, which presumes detention unless the judge finds by clear and convincing evidence the defendant won't flee or endanger the community. Diddy's team hit that wall 5 times. Judge Arn Subramanian has been consistent from day one. Flight risk? Yes. He has private planes, multiple passports, high-level industry connections worldwide, and, let's be honest, the kind of financial reach that can buy a lot of mobility. Danger to the community? Also, yes. The judge referenced prior abuse allegations, that 2016 hotel surveillance video with Cassie, and claims of witness intimidation. And it's not just about what he could do now. Judges often look backward. Federal bail risk assessments weigh criminal history, past court appearance compliance, access to large sums of liquid cash, willingness to flout court orders in the past. Diddy's $50 million bond proposal, complete with 24/7 armed guards, GPS tracking, and house arrest at his Miami estate, looked impressive on paper. But Judge Subramanian dismissed it in legal terms that translate to, you can't buy away the risk. This is where precedent matters. Elizabeth Holmes, Theranos, and R. Kelly both tried similar post-conviction bail plays, offering huge bonds and strict conditions. Both were denied for the same reasons: serious charges, long potential sentences, and the means to disappear. The judge also noted the no exceptional circumstances rule. In plain English, nothing in Diddy's situation is unusual enough to justify breaking the default rule of detention after conviction. Having a lot to lose? Not exceptional. Having a mansion? Not exceptional. Even having kids? Still not exceptional. And the more times you ask and get denied, the harder it is to convince the same judge you've suddenly become a safe bet. But this isn't just about sitting in a cell. In Act 2, the charges themselves and the sentencing clock explain why October might be the most important month of Diddy's life. Let's talk about the law that's keeping Diddy in the hot seat: the Mann Act. Officially called the White Slave Traffic Act of 1910, it was originally created to stop the interstate trafficking of women for immoral purposes. Language so broad it was abused in the early 20th century to prosecute everything from genuine trafficking to consensual relationships that crossed state lines. In modern times, Congress has tightened it up. Now it's explicitly aimed at prostitution, sexual exploitation, and human trafficking, with a focus on coercion or exploitation. For Diddy, the 2 Mann Act counts stem from trips that prosecutors say were anything but consensual swinger vacations. The government's version, these were carefully orchestrated events involving coercion, abuse, and power imbalances. The jury agreed, convicting him on those counts even while acquitting him of the bigger RICO and sex trafficking conspiracy charges. Why does that matter for bail and sentencing? Because each Mann Act conviction carries up to 10 years in federal prison, mandatory registration as a sex offender if certain elements are proven, a sentencing process heavily influenced by the U.S. sentencing guidelines. Here's how the math works under those guidelines. Base offense level for a Mann Act conviction usually starts at level 14 to 20. Add enhancements if there was coercion, threats, or violence. Add more if the transportation was part of a larger pattern of conduct. Guidelines typically start around level 14 to 20 for these offenses, with possible enhancements for coercion, threats, or pattern of conduct, which aligns with the reported 51 to 63-month range. Now, about that October 3rd, 2025 sentencing date. That's 2 months away. Enough time for the Pre-Sentence Investigation Report, PSR, to be finalized. This is prepared by probation officers, includes interviews, and makes its own recommendation to the judge. Judges rely on these heavily. Both sides to file sentencing memoranda, the prosecution's laying out aggravating factors, the defense is begging for leniency. Any final character letters or rehabilitation evidence to be submitted. Here's where time served comes into play. Diddy's already been in custody nearly a year. Under federal law, every day served pre-sentencing counts toward your sentence. So if he gets a 51-month sentence, he's already knocked roughly 12 months off. The defense's pitch? Forget prison. Go for home confinement in Miami, paired with counseling, public advocacy against domestic violence, and 24/7 monitoring. Their argument? He's already served a substantial penalty, and his public platform can be turned toward positive change. The prosecution's reply? We've seen this movie before, and it doesn't end with the credits rolling over a redemption arc. But bail denial isn't just about the law. In Act 3, we'll see how it's also a PR chokehold that's making it nearly impossible for Diddy to control the narrative. This fifth bail denial isn't just another no in a legal file. It's a chokehold on Diddy's entire defense strategy. Here's why. When you're out on bail before sentencing, you've got freedom to maneuver. And I don't just mean literal movement. You can. Work daily with your legal team in person to fine-tune sentencing arguments. Sit down for image control interviews with sympathetic media. Appear at charity events or community programs that become talking points in court. Behind bars, you're stuck with limited attorney visits, often through glass or on a monitored line. No direct contact with your PR consultants, only filtered messages through lawyers. No ability to create new public goodwill moments before the judge sees you next. It's like going into a high-stakes negotiation without being able to prep the room first. And in federal sentencing, public perception isn't officially part of the guidelines. But judges are human. They read the news, they sense momentum, and they notice whether a defendant is actively trying to turn things around. Defense teams know this. That's why they often build what's called a sentencing mitigation package. A portfolio of positive press, character letters, completed counseling programs, and charity work to show the court the defendant is on a different path. Diddy's team can still submit some of that, but without his active presence, it's missing the personal redemption arc effect. Then there's the political wildcard, the reported pardon outreach to Donald Trump. While a presidential pardon can wipe a federal conviction, the process usually takes years, unless it's granted in a flurry of end-of-term favors. Even then, the politics are tricky. It would require Trump to weigh the PR blowback against whatever relationship or loyalty exists. His lawyers also tried the swinger lifestyle framing hard bail motions, portraying the incidents as consensual adult encounters miscast by prosecutors. But the moment the jury found coercion under the Mann Act, that argument lost most of its legal power. The net effect? Diddy's stuck in a holding pattern where every day behind bars is another day the prosecution's narrative stays front and center. And that's why Act 4 is the real battleground, where sentencing guidelines, pre-sentence reports, and the cold math of federal prison time will collide with the redemption pitch. On paper, the numbers look terrifying. Maximum sentence, 20 years, 10 years per Mann Act count. Statutory minimum, none, which means the judge has full discretion to go low or high within the guidelines. But in the real world, the U.S. sentencing guidelines are the roadmap. They're not mandatory, but most federal judges use them as a starting point. Here's how the math likely shakes out in Diddy's case. Base offense level for a Mann Act violation. Level 14 if there's no coercion, level 20 if there is. Enhancements, +2 to +4 levels if the conduct involved coercion, threats, or force. +2 if the victim was unusually vulnerable. Potential upward adjustments if the court views the conduct as part of a pattern or scheme. Acceptance of responsibility. Usually, defendants who plead guilty and take responsibility get up to 3 levels off. Diddy went to trial and maintained innocence. So, no discount here? The prosecution's range of 51 to 63 months suggests they calculated an adjusted offense level in the low to mid-20s, which lines up with those enhancements. That's roughly 4.25 to 5.25 years. The Pre-Sentence Investigation Report, PSR, is now the star player in this phase. It's compiled by federal probation officers, includes interviews with Diddy, family, and sometimes victims. Recommends a sentence based on guidelines, criminal history, and 3553 factors, the statutory list of things the judge must consider. Here's where Diddy's team will go all in on mitigation, submitting character letters from friends, family, and industry allies, highlighting time served, nearly a year already, pushing for home confinement at his Miami mansion, with counseling as a way to balance punishment with rehabilitation. But let's be real, home confinement after a conviction on 2 federal sex-related felonies is rare. Judges tend to see it as a slap on the wrist unless there's a compelling medical reason. And remember, this is the same judge who's denied bail 5 times despite sky-high bond offers. That doesn't exactly signal an openness to house arrest. Still, sentencing isn't just about the math. Judges can, and sometimes do, surprise everyone, going lower if they believe the defendant has a genuine rehabilitation plan and poses no future danger. The question is whether Diddy's October 3rd sentencing will be seen as a turning point or a final chapter. And Act 5 is where we talk about why October isn't just a date. It's the cliffhanger for every other legal battle he's still facing. October 3rd, 2025 isn't just a sentencing date. It's the pivot point for the rest of Diddy's legal life. From now until then, here's what's in motion. Sentencing memos. Both sides will file these in the coming weeks. The prosecutions will hammer home aggravating factors, coercion, abuse, and the need to send a message. The defense will push for leniency, framing Diddy as rehabilitated and capable of using his influence for good. Final PSR review. The pre-sentence investigation report will be finalized, and both sides can object to its findings. This is where defense lawyers try to strip out damaging language, and prosecutors fight to keep it in. Victim impact statements. Under federal law, victims have the right to address the court before sentencing. If any speak, it could sway the judge, especially if their testimony reinforces the prosecution's view of ongoing danger. If the judge goes light, something like time served plus supervised release, it signals a belief in Diddy's redemption arc. That could help him in his civil defamation suits by showing a court-recognized positive change. If the judge goes heavy, closer to the maximum guideline range, it cements a narrative of severity. That could spill into other cases, giving opposing lawyers ammunition to argue that Diddy's a proven danger, not just a tabloid headline. Then there's the appeal factor. If the sentence is harsh, expect an immediate notice of appeal. Likely grounds: challenging evidentiary rulings from trial or arguing the guideline calculations were wrong. An appeal doesn't stop him from serving time, but it keeps the legal fight alive and the case in the media. And here's the kicker: anything that surfaces between now and sentencing, new witnesses, leaked documents, even statements from Diddy himself, could trigger new legal exposure. If prosecutors find conduct that falls within the statute of limitations, especially related to the same pattern of behavior, they could bring fresh charges. So October isn't just the end of this chapter, it's the possible start of another. Until then, the bail door is locked, the sentence clock is ticking, and the only thing left is to see if the next gavel drop sets him free or sends him away for years. So, Diddy's bail clock just hit 0, locked in until October with a sentencing showdown that could go mansion or maximum. What do you think? Will the judge bite on the redemption package, or is this ending with more bars than beats? Drop your ruling in the comments. The jury's in session, and hit subscribe. Because next time, we're not talking bail, we're talking the sentence that could define the rest of his career.